Hello, everyone. This is Journey Enhancement YouTube channel, and my name is Ethan Merriweather. I'm here with Rich Wiehe, the founder of Journey Enhancement, and I'm so glad once again you found our channel. Today, we'll just have a quick discussion about building relationships at in a work environment. I think in episode 1, Rich was kind of breaking down in a kind of synopsis of the company. Rich, what do you think about episode 1?
I liked it because it gave a pretty good overview of some of the things we've been doing. What I'm really looking forward to, Ethan, is getting into some of the specifics. You know, some of the, like you mentioned to me that you might want to talk about relationships today. And when we get into the how-tos of what I do, that to me it could be interesting and educational for many people. So I'm looking forward to the kinds of questions you might ask and where we go from here.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. You know, as I was going through your booklet that it's like full of knowledge. I think I showed in episode 1 the binder that he gave me. We discussed talking about relationships, right? And he has this beautiful thing in the binder called Keys to Developing Effective Relationships and Communication Enhancement.
What I did is I thought about what it takes in my understanding of what are the elements that I use to create strong relationships, to create levels of curiosity. You know, as I think I mentioned in the last episode, one of the things that has always been important to me is I like people to like me. So I thought about what is it that happens in a relationship that causes people to feel like they're being appreciated. I have 5 keys to begin with that I use, and it goes like this. People want to be accepted, respected, valued, understood, and appreciated. So the question is, how do we do that? Mm-hmm. And the document that you looked at, I call it the 20 keys, that has 20 different areas of relationship building. And if I could, I'd like to read the list, and then maybe you could ask me questions about the ones that you're intrigued about. And they're not in any particular order. So it doesn't mean that the first one is most important. It just means this is the list. It starts off with self-awareness, preconceived conclusions, boundary-free thinking, confrontation, acute awareness of others, appropriate eye-to-eye contact, accommodating body language, tone of voice, choice of words, authentic listening, genuine interest, profound understanding, prudent patience, wholehearted appreciation, accurate timing, respect, self-control, and using all of those things together. I call it using our skillful means. And the last thing on the list is choice. So those are the ones that I thought really provoked a lot of my own thinking when it came to developing relationships and causing people to feel that I'm genuinely interested in them.
Underneath the umbrella are these 20? Like if you said, so that's it. So
yes.
So a relationship is an umbrella.
Yeah, relationship, as you know, a relationship, it may be a little bit different to everybody, but we have all kinds of relationships. I have a relationship with my wife. I have relationships with my clients. And one of the things that I do or have had the privilege of being is a confidant to people. And I wanted to be sure I understood what a confidant does, so I actually looked it up in the dictionary. And it explains that a confidant relationship is a relationship where somebody that you have that type of relationship with holds that relationship extremely valuable. It's a very private relationship. There's communication that occurs in those relationships that may be awkward to share with a lot of publicly or with a lot of other people. But yet in that confidant relationship with me, it really helps us to get into the basis of who a person is and the things that are on their heart and on their mind that they sometimes don't know how to expose and talk about. So to me, that's a valuable relationship. So like I said, there's very many. I have a relationship with my dog Willow. It's just, relationships are different,
Yes.
and it depends on, what you're looking for in a relationship with somebody.
Yes.
When I do the DISC model of human behavior, there's a quotation that I use. It came from Personality Insights, and it goes like this, quote, "Did you know studies have shown that technical skill, beginning with intelligence, developed through education and experience, accounts for only 15% of success in the workplace. The other 85% of success in the workplace comes from people skills. Well, people skills have everything to do with developing relationships."
Wow. So when you walk into an establishment as a mentor facilitator, right?
Yes.
And a coach, you use the DISC model of human behavior as a guide to nudge you in individual relationships, right?
Well, yeah, what happens with the DISC model of human behavior, it's an assessment that basically categorizes personality styles. And what it does to begin with is we've had very good success in that when people understand how they're wired and they read the results of the assessment, and there's other people in the room that know them, they get a lot of affirmation and joy out of understanding who they are and who the other people are and how their personalities are wired. What that particular part of what I do does, it's almost like a wonderful icebreaker.
Gotcha.
It basically changes the way that the audience is looking at one another and sometimes themselves as we move forward. So what it does, it sometimes will take what might be considered a chilled or cold relationship and starts warming it up, because all of a sudden we discover things about one another through the assessment that is accurate. And it's like, wow, people are usually like, wow, that's really me. How did you know that? So that develops a sense of understanding and curiosity that basically, like I said, it's a very good icebreaker.
It's funny because my sister, Susan, she watched the first episode, and that was the one thing she keyed on was the DISC model
Really?
of human
Yes.
behavior, and she wanted to ask more questions concerning that.
Every now and then, I would say probably 30% of the time, when I talk to people that are interested in engaging me, they are familiar with some type of a personality assessment. Now, I don't want to get off on a tangent about the DISC, but one of the things that I ask people when they have had personality assessment experiences, I ask them what they retain from it. And very few people really retain an awful lot. When we do the DISC model of human behavior, people have retained it for years. And I have come across people that we worked with 10 years ago, and they'll bring up the fact that how they still use the elements of the DISC model of human behavior.
That's a good point. One of the things that I think we talked about this last time, but I want to bring it up again because to me it's still fresh on my mind, is if people do this assessment and it's an icebreaker
Yes.
within an organization or a small group, right? When you do this assessment, can people change in the long run? What if they don't like what they see? Is it also a springboard to say, well, I don't like that. I think I need to improve in this area. You know what I'm saying? Have you seen that happen?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
one of the things people ask me, can you change your personality? And well, I reflect upon that this way. You ever watch Blue Bloods or NCIS?
Oh, yeah.
You ever watch the way the actors are? What they're doing is they're acting. Well, we can act too. So once you understand the parts of your personality that you may like to have different, you have to start practicing those differences. So you're kind of acting. And I believe personally, because I know I can do it, I know that if you act long enough to make a change that you really wish to have, eventually it will become intuitive. So I do believe that you could change at least the outlook of the way you're being received. Now, whether or not that changes chemically inside you, I don't know how to answer that question.
Understood. So, like, I'm no I'm no scientist, nor a therapist, or anything like that. But to me, this can be a model for therapy, right?
Oh, absolutely, it is.
Yeah. So,
it is. One of the things that that the DISC model of human behavior helps me to do. For example, when I understand your personality, I know based on the way that you're wired that being precise, exact, and correct is very important to you. Mm-hmm. So when I'm with people that are wired like you, I need to be very cautious that I really do know what I'm talking about. No, otherwise what happens is people will disconnect. Really.
That's true.
You know, another part of it with the people that are highly driven. Okay, these are people that have a mind of their own.
Yes.
They know what they want to do, and they don't like to be told what to do.
Yes.
And they want you to get straight to the point. They don't need a big story. So when I'm with those people, I basically want to find out what they're looking for and how can I help them get it so they can make the decision for themselves. And that's how I use it.
In your keys to developing, and that's the key. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk about this, because it's called Keys to Developing Effective Relationships and Communication Enhancement. I think if we can just sit there and really understand that title alone, I think it speaks some volumes to, I would say, the approach to building a relationship and establishing a true, strong environment as well. When you were talking about building that relationships where you see value in the person that you're talking to.
Always,
right?
always.
Always find the value.
Yes, always.
Is it, have you come across a organization where it was strong, they were so strong in their way of viewing things that your relationship could not be built? It was hard to build a strong relationship.
I've never been able to develop some type of relationship, okay? So the answer to the question is no. I haven't come across a situation where I couldn't get beyond the point we were at to begin with. However, you know, based on pride and ego, for example, pride and ego will get in the way of penetrating into a relationship sometimes. So when I'm confronted with a strong sense of pride and ego, I have to be very aware of, okay, now that that's there, what do I do? Okay, so there are two things that I think are extremely important. I believe that the most important element of building a relationship or solving problems, and of course learning, is the word understanding. When people believed that you're genuinely interested in them and you want to understand them, it changes the environment in which the communication is taking place. I mean, just think about the good relationships that you have. And, you know, the strongest relationships that we have with other people are relationships where we can be transparent, our value systems are in step with one another, and we're really comfortable with one another. And, you know, when you think about it, how does all of that occur? And what I did is I basically took that understanding and came up with these keys that I've developed.
Understood.
That's the way that I figured out how to do it.
Understood. That's beautiful. One thing that you brought up was the pride and ego.
Oh,
right?
yes.
So when a DISC assessment is done, can pride and ego be clearly seen?
Not always, no. The DISC assessment is not going to reveal
Good word.
what I consider to be emotion. It is not going to reveal a person's value system. It is truly designed to understand how we basically react to life in terms of what we gravitate to and what we resist. When you talk about pride and ego, to me that is something that gets built over a period of time. You know, the way that ego has worked with me, and I think it's different with everybody. Everybody has ego. We're built with it. And when I say the dangers of pride and ego, one of the things that I talk about with people is anything good that is used to an extreme becomes a detriment. Now, it's good to have a sense of pride. When I was in the military, my sense of pride allowed me to excel in leadership roles. My egotistical attitude as a leader in the military was very beneficial. But if I take that same military egotistical attitude and apply it in a ministry, guess what? Nobody wants to follow me. So you have to know how to manage your pride and ego.
The self-awareness part, and you have a scripture that follows that, right? The scripture, it says, being present and controlling how I am being, how I present myself, and understanding how my presence is affecting others. That's Proverbs 5:21, and you can pick up a similar verse in Philippians 2,
Right.
2 through 4.
Now, as you know, one of the things we did is I wanted to support everything that we do scripturally.
Correct.
And what I do in the secular world, I just don't include the scripture, but the principles stay the same.
Understood.
Okay. Now, the other thing I want to make clear with the 20 keys is my definitions of these 20 keys are my definitions. They're the way that I understand self-awareness, preconceived conclusions, and so on and so forth. Most of my work reflects my understanding of the adjectives and attributes I use to communicate our work. So, yes, self-awareness, being present and controlling how I am being, how I present myself, and understanding how my presence is affecting others. And one of the things that when it comes to self-awareness, I want to talk about is if somebody is listening to this and we're talking about self-awareness and you're just kind of like wanting to relate to it strongly for the first time for yourself, think about the behavior that you maintain when you're about to speak. To what degree do you think about the words you're going to use and the way they're going to land on the people that you're conversing with? Okay, when I say self-awareness, I understand so strongly on how my awareness could affect another person that it's truly when you learn how to use your self-awareness appropriately, it can give you a real advantage in developing a relationship. And I'll give you a good example of one where I'm sure you're very aware. Think about when you were dating your wife. Think about that kind of relationship that you want to, when you really want to impress somebody, you really think about what you're going to do to create the impression you want. But that doesn't happen in day-to-day conversations with people that aren't really close to us sometimes.
It'll be hypocritical if you use this only at your work environment. It should be your lifestyle.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's exactly.
That's the goal.
I'm glad you put it that way because, what my work is my lifestyle. And I have challenged young people to do this. I mean, understand that this didn't happen overnight. The work that we're going to be talking about is literally in progress from the time I was 7 years old. And I'll be 80 in September. And I'm still basically looking for ways to add to it. So the question is, how do you want other people to perceive who you are? Like I had said once before, we were at a men's group on a Saturday morning in a church, and the question came up, what is the most important thing to you? And my response was my reputation. And that has been number one. Doesn't mean that Jesus isn't important to me.
Right.
Okay? But certainly, Jesus is a strong part of my reputation for those people that know and understand me. Okay? So to me, these 20 keys they're actually just a part of what it takes. As we get into the material later on, when we go into the leadership aspect of what we're doing, I've come up with 81 leadership attributes that are defined and supported by Scripture.
That's,
So this is all learning, all learning.
what was that?
Oh, the question was, what's most important to me?
To you.
What's the
So,
one thing that's most important to you as a person?
It's funny that he Rich actually asked me that question at his house one day, and in my mind, he told me to wait. Don't answer it so fast. I want you to calm down and really think it through. I had to really think about that question, because am I really answering the question so I can look good in his eyes, or am I answering the question as honest and transparent as I can possibly be? And I think that a lot of times when we answer questions, I think we come to this summation of how someone else perceives you, and you try to answer based off of that ideal. That's an ideal and not the reality of who you are.
And it's interesting, you had talked about being hypocritical, but when you do that, you're basically on a path to hypocrisy. When you now think about what you just said, because if I'm going to design my answer to please you, and it isn't authentic in who I am, that to me is taking a path toward hypocrisy. And when it was interesting because at this group, it was a men's group at church, I was the one to answer last. And I was listening to everyone else's answers, and I'm not discrediting what they said, but it appeared that it's a men's group at church. It appeared that everybody was trying to find a biblical perspective. There's nothing wrong with that they could speak. And I was thinking, wait a minute, that's not how I think. No, I'll go the other, here's what it really is. It's my reputation. It's my character. And, once that came out, it was interesting to watch the tone of the conversation change, where people say, oh, yeah, well, now, then all of a sudden, things start to become a little bit more authentic.
It's funny. I'm glad you said that, man, because I'm loving this. I'm loving this conversation, man. So, Tamara, my wife, was watching Jeff Foxworthy on TV. It just came on, and it was just on, and she just started watching it, right? Because she watched a lot of dry-bar comedy and different things like that, just to chuckle. And it's funny, Jeff Foxworthy, he says, sometimes it's hard doing comedy in front of Christians. He says that.
Yeah, it
He
is.
said because it's sometimes it's kind of hard to what to say, because when he says a punchline, everybody in the audience asks the question, should I laugh this or
right.
And because that question that you asked earlier made me think about that.
Yes.
Because everyone is going to give some type of script answer,
right,
instead of the realistic thing that's in their mind to share.
Well, authenticity is critical.
Yeah.
Okay, there are, like authenticity and transparency, vulnerability, those three things are powerful. Yeah. And what I found to be true for me, and this is why I put it in my work, the more authentic I am, the more authentic people are with me.
Yes.
The more transparent I am, the more people are transparent with me. The more vulnerable I allow myself to be, likewise from the audience. Guess what that does for relationships? Now we're talking with the reality of things. Yeah. One of the things that's interesting is that people do hesitate to express the way that they think and feel, so much influenced by how they feel someone's going to react when they express themselves. And there's an art to that, and we're going to talk about how we could improve our ability to do that, and these 20 keys are going to help us there.
The next one is preconceived conclusions, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, like, a lot of times when you're talking to someone, it's funny. Like, let's say if you're interviewing someone, you're asked to come in to assess, to mentor, to coach a building, right? Or I said a building, a company, right? Or a ministry, or anything, it's very important for you as a mentor and coach not to jump to conclusions, right?
We all do. Everybody does, including me. However, I love talking about this particular key. And first of all, I want to correct it a little bit, because in the book, I have preconceived conclusions as defined as unfounded judgment. It can be preconceived conclusions can be accurate or inaccurate. It goes both ways. Okay. Sometimes we preconceive something and hit it dead on. So I don't want people to think that you can't have preconceived conclusions. The question is, how do you manage your preconception of things? And that's key. One of the things I deal with in every environment is when somebody tries to determine the motivation of someone else based on what they say or did. And most of the times, it's not accurate. It goes the wrong way. Like, I know why you're doing that. No, you don't. Okay, so what I have learned to do is I have learned that if I want to create a conclusion about somebody, I have to ask them enough questions that will help them to clarify me what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go with what's on their mind. I make it a point not to determine that, well, I know what they meant by that, or I know what they're trying to achieve. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I'm dead on, but that's a very unhealthy position to take when you're trying to build strong relationships.
And when you assume, it's very dangerous. It's very harmful.
Yeah, assumptions are, and sometimes you could assume something to be correct. Don't misunderstand me, but there are certain things we really have to guard ourselves against when we're trying to develop strong relationships. And the whole thing, to me, the more authentic a relationship, the foundation of a relationship can be, the stronger it's going to be, and the more lasting it's going to be. That's just the way it is. So how do you get to that level of knowing what's truly authentic?
Yes.
And you get there by knowing what kind of questions to ask.
Yes.
And also how to respect the other. Respect is in the book somewhere, and to me, respect is the most important. Of all the behaviors and attributes that I could think of when it comes to dealing with other people, the most important attribute is respect. I believe it's more important than love. Now, don't misunderstand the value of love biblically, but the fact is, when you're not feeling respected, you generally don't feel loved. So I have put respect at the top of, it's the number one important thing. And when we could have another talk just on respect, and I would advise us to go about it that way later on if you want.
Respect would, like, for me, I would think respect actually falls like very, very close proximity of love.
Absolutely.
But like you said, it can be another discussion.
Yes.
And I think that love, to me, my personal opinion, that love is an embodiment of multiple things. Love is to me, love has been hijacked, right? Because to me, if you look at yourself as a coach and a mentor, your care alone about going into a establishment to improve, not tear down. You're being asked to go to an establishment to improve the culture, not tear it down. If you've been requested to come there to improve it, but you're tearing it down, that's another problem. I mean, you know what I'm saying? There's an issue there, you know?
It's interesting. One of the things that, and I can't quote the scripture completely, but biblically speaking, the verse that talks about love is patient, love is kind, in that scripture, it defines all of the attributes of love, and it also identifies the attributes that you shouldn't do so that you spoil what love is. Those are really good guidelines, and that, again, that love is another topic.
It really is.
Yeah.
Number 3 is boundary-free thinking.
That's
I
one of my
like
favorite.
That.
It's limitless perspectives, views, and thoughts. Now, this is easy to say, and difficult to do. And I have a saying that says anything is possible and everything could work. And that's really kind of far-fetched, isn't it? But you know what? I believe that. I believe that anything is possible and everything could work. And I believe that in the context that when we come up against challenges, we have to figure out how to convert a challenge into a working situation. So in order to do that, you have to have a mindset that doesn't create obstacles and barriers from within your own thinking.
I agree.
And that's not easy to do.
I agree.
Most people that I work with are they don't know how to do it and don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I enjoy taking my thinking to that level where, okay, how can we make this possible? How could we make this work? Now, don't misunderstand that there's still a difference between right and wrong and good and bad, and evil and all that. That doesn't mean that we could make those things better. We could be examples that avoid those things, but when it comes to solving problems, when we really have boundary-free thinking, it creates a tremendous possibility of coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. For years I worked as a quality engineer at a supplier, right?
Right.
And one of the things that we had to do, or one of the things that should be done in an organization, is have cross-functional thinking.
Oh yeah,
You have cross-functional, because you have multiple engineers in other areas that can bring their expertise to and they're not only their expertise but their history.
That's
and
good.
their learning and experience to the table, as well as quality engineering can bring their specifications, their tolerances, the different things like that, their drawings, the things that have been agreed to with the customer, and you have maintenance that will be involved, and you have just a multiple cross-functional team that can bring their ideals, experience, expertise to the table, so we can try to figure out what the problem is. And it gets real heated sometimes.
Well, what I find interesting about that comment, this is what I was thinking about when you're talking about that. What I have to offer that is my strongest point is I don't know the answer. I don't know. It's truly one of the things that I think allows me to be as effective as I am is I go into situations that I have absolutely no experience in, no education in, okay? But what I do have is this desire to understand. So from that desire to understand, what I've been gifted with is knowing how to ask questions to those people that have the experience and have the knowledge that haven't had those type of questions asked to them. Guess what it does to them? It basically allows them to exemplify, to amplify their thinking. And they did it, and then they pay me. No, seriously. It's like, wow, I've had recently where I wanted to step away for a while, and they said, no, you can't, because you see things completely different than we do, and we need that. And that's the value of what you were talking about. It's not, to me, the questions are far more important than the answers.
I agree. I think a lot of times we're comfortable when we get the answer that we've expected.
Good point. Excellent point. Yeah, and that what happens? That's an excellent point. What happens when we get the answer that we were expecting? We generally change our train of thought or terminate the conversation, and we never got to the authentic reason.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah, that's a good example. People will do that. As a matter of fact, you've noticed that our men's group will start a conversation, and people will drift away from it because they don't know how to add to it. They'd rather divert from it. It happens in life. It's just the way people are. I don't know what to talk about that relates to what you're talking about, so let me take it from here and go in a different direction. But that's just the way society is. It's just having an awareness of that, and what do you want to do with it?
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm learning daily, like even when we have these conversations.
Sure.
I think because I have another podcast that I do, right? And it's the same thing as a group of fellas come together and we talk about hot issues and topics and different things like that, right? Very, very good stuff. The challenge that you're talking about in the midst of these conversations, it challenge one's think, and it's impromptu discussions, right?
Yes.
So it's hot.
Yeah.
It's like you got to get your brain burning to answer.
We haven't had time to think about it. What are we going to do with it? Yeah, I get it.
Yes, exactly. What am I going to do with it?
Yes.
And I think a lot of times people default to blame.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let me take that back. I was going to say, when you don't know the answer sometimes, the defense come up. And like you said, sometimes people want to change the subject or whatnot. Or sometimes people want to defend the way they think.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm not asking the question for you to defend your logical thinking. You know what I'm saying? To coddle you. It's about resolving. And I believe this is probably a lot of the occasions and situations you find yourself in when you walk into a company or whatnot, where people try to defend.
Well, people will avoid I call it the elephant in the room.
Yes.
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned to master is how to identify and talk about the elephant in the room.
Gotcha.
And it comes about by causing people to have a relaxed and trusting feeling about me.
Yes.
And that's part of that comes from all these skills, all these keys to developing effective relationships and enhancing communication. This is where I got it from.
Yes.
So
that's beautiful. So I think, we to end our conversation for today with the 20 is number 4. It's confrontation. So I think confrontation is one of the hardest things that we, if we're not honest with ourselves, we try to avoid the confrontation.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
I can. As a matter of fact, you'll notice that what I said is confrontation is the act of outward questioning, challenging, or disagreeing. It doesn't delineate right from wrong. And what happens when you hear the word confrontation, that immediately puts people on guard.
Yes.
I figured out why people don't like confrontation. And it's true with everybody. It isn't that I'm reluctant to confront anybody. Here's what I'm not certain of. When I confront somebody, I'm not sure how they're going to respond to me, so I would rather avoid the confrontation. It's the unpredicted response that causes us to stay away from it. So now we have to figure out, if you want to confront something, how do we put ourselves in a position and the other person in a position that won't happen? Delivery, understanding, vulnerability, transparency, all of that. It is not, I love confrontation.
Okay.
Because confrontation is necessary to solve problems.
Wow.
So, I think to begin with, you have to change the first impression of what confrontation means to you. To me, confrontation means we're going to discover. If I said to you, let's not confront, let's discover. Whoa, that's a completely different mindset, isn't it? So how many times in the process of confrontation can we simply change the word to making a discovery or to create a new learning? That's all it takes. Get rid of the word, but keep the action.
Ooh. We had a plant manager that when he walked in the building, everybody got quiet because he was very confrontational.
Yep.
But
and authority.
And authority.
Yeah,
That's exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah, the big man walked in.
When the big man walked in, I mean, eyes tightened up and people, they showed their best.
Yes, I know. I'm familiar with that environment.
And he was very confrontational. Is for one, he had to be, because he was running a business. But once you understood his approach, you understand where he stood. And I think that, with that confrontation, I think that people started to, well, let me take a step back. Confrontation, like you said, can be misdefined or not properly defined and used for the wrong reasons and purposes.
Correct. And it's interesting that you related to somebody with authority that's running a business. So, and I've been in the situation where in my operation, my boss's boss would walk in with a serious demeanor and put everybody on guard. That's normal. That happens. And it's interesting because when you were talking about this, it reminded me of a situation that occurred to me when I was in leadership school in the Army.
Okay.
And we got demerits if they found things wrong with us, and merits if they found things that were above and beyond. So I was in charge of a group of people, and in the barracks, one of the soldiers I was responsible for had a magazine under his mattress.
Gotcha.
And when they inspected the barracks, they found the magazine, and they gave me a demerit. Okay? I thought that was unreasonable, and this is what I really did. So I was discussing it with another peer outside of the leader, the sergeant's door that gave me the demerits. And he opened the door, overhearing my conversation. He says, "Wiehe, what did you say?" I went in his office and got face-to-face with him. And I says, "Let me tell you what I think." And I explained, I said, "I can't understand why you would punish me for something I had absolutely no control over." He changed and took away the demerit because I was willing to stand up. Now, there's another situation that I want to share where there were people in the corporate world that they came across that way. They were strong. And one of the things I always did was I always tried to find ways to ask them questions and to talk to them directly.
Okay.
And when they found out, this is really interesting because it's part of my career growth, when they found out that I was genuinely interested in how they thought and why they thought, it gained the amount of respect they had for me. And it elevated me in my career. So I did not allow confrontation to frighten me. But that's me.
Right.
Most people don't have that. Okay? But the point is, it doesn't mean you can't have it. Okay?
Right.
Confrontation is discovery. It's learning. It's opportunity. So rather than confront, let's do this. You know what? I just made a discovery, or I just became aware of something that I think is going to really help us. What a difference as opposed to,
yes.
Let me tell you what I found wrong. So much of it
Yes.
is the approach. Confrontation has great value. It's the application that we need to master.
I love it.
Yeah, the application of confrontation is learning, discovery, and possibility, and eventually transformation.
Beautiful. This is episode 2, and we'll get more into these keys in our next episode. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. That's good.